4 seconds. 3. God dang
Three.
it. 2, 1. What's up, everyone? It's Mike from the Air Raid Tech Podcast, your home of the unfiltered, unscripted, 100% authentic, because that's what you're going to get each and every week. Nonetheless, if you're watching the live show, call in. We would love to hear your thoughts.
Call
And
in.
feel free to let us know your thoughts, even if it's not Denver related. Give us your playoff predictions, so on and so forth. But without further ado, to have my good friends on tonight, all the way from the Oklahoma City metro area, Mr. Super Dave, and all the way from beautiful Colorado, Clyde the Glide. Gentlemen, how are you guys?
Recovering from an illness. Hopefully
Yeah,
not COVID.
and I'm recovering from a long, busy day of zipping around. So
I know that feeling.
yeah, it's like just one thing after another to-do list, and it's just like check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. Finally done. Sit down and get this podcast thing taken care of.
Heck yeah.
Well, first off, I'm glad you guys were able to come on because we got a lot to talk about, Clyde. I know it feels like it's been now 2 months since I last saw you, but it's actually what 3 weeks since I last saw you.
No, a little bit
Um,
longer than that, I think.
3 weeks, 4 weeks now. Four, I don't know,
Yeah.
something like that. For all you
I don't
listeners
know.
out there, I was in Colorado during week whatever that was when we beat Arizona, but got to meet Clyde finally in person, not over the phone. And I'll tell you what, dude, he's a real deal in person and on virtual, and he is a heck of a bowler.
Oh,
He
thanks,
he
man.
he fooled me by 100 yards, and no, it was a good
Uh,
time. It was fun, much needed, and definitely be up there sooner than people think. But
Nice.
nonetheless, guys, we got a lot to talk about. First things first, the last few weeks has been interesting. Of course, we all kind of saw it coming. Nathaniel Hackett fired as head coach, didn't even make it, finished out the year, and now we're back to literally square one yet again.
Mm.
Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, a few others out there that is being mentioned, but your guys' thoughts. Well, first off, your guys' thoughts on Denver's season overall. What went wrong in your opinion now, since we can finally say the season's over? 5-12, missed the playoffs now for the seventh straight year, sixth straight
Oof.
losing season.
Oh.
Dave, you first. What went wrong? What went wrong in Denver this year, and why we're back to square one regarding to hopefully finding a head coach that will get us over this hump.
well, my opinion is this. Sorry about my cat. She hasn't seen me all day, so she's just kind of going crazy. She but my opinion was you had a mismatched quarterback and coach. Russell Wilson is a dual quarterback. He can run and he can throw. Nathaniel
Yep.
Hackett came from Aaron Rodgers, who was primarily a passer. So you had like this mismatch of offenses and quarterbacks that you couldn't get over, and it became evident that Nathaniel Hackett had no idea what to do with a dual quarterback. Russell Wilson, he's getting older. Age doesn't do well with dual quarterbacks, but as the last couple of weeks show, with the right system, he can actually be a fairly decent quarterback still at his age.
Hmm.
Clyde, of course, you're in the Denver area. You obviously hear all the media that's going around. What, in your opinion, what went wrong in Denver, and why we're sitting at home again for the playoffs?
Well, I mean, Dave hit on it. He said that the coach and the quarterback weren't compatible. Well, I don't think the coach knew what to do with any of his players. Just not just the quarterback. He was. Dude, Nathaniel Hackett is not a coach in the NFL. I don't think. Offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, quarterbacks coach. I wouldn't trust him to be a what are those guys called where they come in and they hang out and get the coffee for the coordinators? What's that guy called?
Oh, kind of like an
Anyway,
assist.
yeah, what do they call that guy? Uh, oh man, it's gonna bum me
A
out.
runner.
Yeah, he's that guy. He's that guy that he's the friend guy that comes in and cheers everybody up.
The
He's the
cheerleader.
jester. He's the court jester, man. And he's not a coach. He's not. He's a good guy. Everybody loves him, but that's because he's a friend. He's a friendly guy, I guess. And this ain't friend ball. This is football. And he learned the hard way that he is way underprepared for this job. I don't think we're going to see Coach Buttons at all again in any kind of coordinator role for a while.
Mm-mm.
Would you trust him to even coach your high school team? Honestly, I'm not being I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. Like I don't think he knows what he's doing at all.
I think his kids are young, so that obviously limits that. I would like if obviously, well, Valor and Cherry Creek definitely ain't, but even these smaller low grade, even these smaller low grade high schools, I don't know, dude. I don't think so. I think he's unfortunately going to have to regroup his man card and figure out what he did wrong. And it's obviously proof in the pudding that he was portion of the main issue because the last 2 weeks, that offense looked pretty good. Nothing that we saw the first 15 games, but the last two. So,
Well,
against,
when the coach holds the players accountable to come up and make plays, not the coaches. That was Hackett, and that's the word around the campfire in Denver media right now is that Hackett was putting everything on the coaches, and he's like, dude, it's the players that play the game. Make them accountable for their play, and that's what's the coach's name that came in? I missed the last couple of weeks.
Rosberg or something like that.
Rosberg, Jerry, Uncle Jerry came in and made the players play and put them in pads in practice, and they didn't like that, but they came out and beat a good Chargers team that didn't have anything to play for, but they wanted to win that game, man. They wanted to win that game. And so, yeah, I'm pretty excited. What Dave was saying about Russ maybe being able to play a little bit, we saw glimpses of that the last 2 weeks, I think, and definitely the last game of the season showed you what the team can do when they have balance and they want to stretch the field out going over the top.
Dave, also we had high standards and high expectations this year when it came to when we got Russ and what March and the list went on. We thought we had our guy with Nathaniel Hackett. Do you think we just had our expectations too high this year? That kind of why we were all kind of down in the dirt kind of thing, or we just at this point desperate to try to make the playoffs and we thought we had a lot more than we really did?
Well, I think it goes back to what Russell Wilson said in his introductory press conference back in March. He said he wanted to win multiple Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, okay, well, you look at what happened last year. I'm not sure. I don't remember last season how close we were to making the playoffs, if at all, with Drew Lock as quarterback. But it was one of those things where, okay, this move was made, and it's like, okay, maybe he's just a missing piece. And then you bring in Russell Wilson, a quarterback of his caliber, and expectations are going to be high. And I think because we thought Russell Wilson, we heard his press conference, we're like, oh, yeah, we're ready to go. Let's go. And then because of that, we're like, oh, there's going to be a learning period. Seattle's at sea level. Denver's, mile high city. So your body's going to react differently. You can practice all you want to. You can get acclimated all you want to. I mean, they traded him in March, and then 5 months later he's playing football, and it's just you got to get acclimated to it. So
I think that doesn't take a year, man.
No. But it's like, I don't know about that.
Hold on a second. That's like blaming all these heart attacks on climate change right now, dude. The sea level isn't that big of a deal, man. I think that he came in fat. First of all, if we want to talk about his body, let's talk about him being fat.
He came in fat?
He's fat, dude. He looks pudgy.
Yeah, I guess
He's not fat. He doesn't look fat, Dave. Does he look fat?
I don't know. I haven't
really
seen
never looked
outside
at-
of pads. I haven't seen a photo of him in Seattle and him in Denver, so I couldn't tell you.
He looks fat to me.
Okay.
Oh,
Just saying. Hey, man, you
I'll
got all
take-
these
I'll take
chefs
your-
at home?
I'll take your word for it, Clyde.
I think Russ wants to play. He wants to be Drew Brees, and he's not going to be Drew Brees, man. He doesn't see the field very well. And I don't know if that's because he's short or because he's blind, but either way, he's not seeing the field at all.
Maybe
in the
he's
pocket.
both. I don't know. He's all over.
I think
the
he's both, man.
Well, he threw a lot
I
of
think-
interceptions. I mean,
Well,
that
maybe he's colorblind. Doesn't know the difference between Broncos and other teams. So
I don't know what his deal is. I don't know what his deal is. But he looked a little too comfortable, I think, being mediocre this year. I don't know what that is, but we need a coach that will hold him to account.
Mhm.
yeah.
Take some of these cushy little positions away and take away some of his. He has an entourage that flies with him everywhere he goes. What is he, a superstar? Like, he's not a superstar. He was 5-12. He's the quarterback of a 5-12 team. You need to make him go back to square one. And which coach is going to do that for him? I don't know.
Well, and that leads to the next one. The next question, I think the biggest one that obviously now is the biggest topic in Denver and across the NFL is the head coaching position. Of course, once again, we're back to square one regarding the head coach. Of course, Greg Pinner, the owner of Walmart and the owner of the Denver Broncos and all that good stuff. Which, I like his approach. It sounds like he wants to, he's trying to get something figured out in regards to Denver. But I know Clyde and we talked about this a while back. I know you mentioned George Payton being the guy that should be the next one out the door in Denver. With Greg Pinner taking full control of this head coaching search and not general manager George Payton, is this a red flag if you're George when it comes to job security? Or do you think that we're about to see a new GM getting tossed out the door?
Yeah, it's a red flag. Hell yeah. One of the radio guys here in Denver is DMAC, and he asked George Payton in that press conference with George. He asked Greg Pinner about George Payton. He's like, "Why do you have faith in that guy? Why is he still here?" And honestly, the answer was, "I talked to him because I can talk to him." Like, okay, well that's not a good reason to be around, man. So I think George, after this coach is hired, they're going to go through one more draft. I think George is gone after the draft.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah, especially if they don't, if I may add, if they don't do very well in the draft. If George doesn't do very well for a draft, if he kind of lets some players go that should have been picked, and the owners see that, I think they're going to give him the boot.
Well, and that's what brings up the next question. Still keep talking about the head coaching position. This brings up the next question due to the fact that obviously we know that we still don't have theoretically a first-round pick. We gave that to Seattle, which I think ended up being fourth or fifth. Fifth. Okay, fifth, and for Seattle. So congrats, Russell Wilson's Seattle Seahawks. You guys got our fifth pick in exchange for a 5-12 Russell Wilson. But also we got the first-round pick. We don't know from Miami in the trade for Bradley Chubb, but it's actually theoretically came from the 49ers. We don't know what position that's going to be at because obviously they're in the playoffs. It could be, way back in the first. Which leads
That's my
to this
NFC
question.
wrap.
Which
They're going to be
leads to this
31 or
question
32.
is they're going to interview Sean Payton on Tuesday. And the offer is that the Saints want a first round pick. Now, if you're Denver, and obviously it sounds like they're still all in on Sean Payton, do you get? I got my own opinion on this one. I'm kind of curious what you guys say. Do we give up our first round for Sean Payton and other draft picks or whatever else they're asking for a head coach that could be the missing link, and maybe he's a guy that can change and mold Russell back into what Russell was in Seattle?
Well, if I might add about the head coaching thing, there's a guy that isn't even being considered, and it's a shame. And it's Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City.
Ooh.
And I don't know why he's not being considered, because he works with a dual threat quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, so he would be familiar with it, and he could probably say, "Hey, this is what we want to do." You know, we could probably fix Russell Wilson. But as far as the thing with Sean Payton, I would pass because Sean Payton necessarily, I don't think his system would work with Russell Wilson. I just don't see it. And to say that you're going to give another first round draft pick up for a head coach, you know, that may not work out, it's just too risky in my book. I would just say, hey, let's slide. But the thing is about Jim Harbaugh, it's kind of interesting. It's kind of repeating itself what happened with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll took the Seattle job, and then just a short time later, it was revealed that there was all this stuff about USC, and NCAA came hard with sanctions. Could it be that Jim Harbaugh goes to the NFL again, and then here by maybe June or July, Michigan is postseason ineligible because of sanctions, and then Jim Harbaugh pulls a Pete Carroll?
Who's your daddy?
That's what I was noticing.
Some yo daddy just popped up.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I know who Mike.
I got something funny to tell you. Mike, if you want to put this in the podcast, go right ahead. But this is legit.